So tonight we're going to talk all about what you need to know before starting a Lean Six Sigma certification. So I'm here tonight with Lean Portland. They're the ones that are hosting us, and they are a group of Lean Six Sigma professionals that extend their expertise into their community. So in addition to a Tuesday happy hour, which is on Zoom right now as we go through this pandemic, we also have free and donation-based workshops like these, and some pro bono consulting. So if you do have a nonprofit or other small organization that's doing great things for our community, and you need some pro bono consultants for Lean Six Sigma or process improvement activities, please get in contact with us. You can find out more about Lean Portland at leanportland.com or on Eventbrite. So we have other events that we're doing. It's a great place to just check in and take a look at what we have going on. So a little bit about me before we get too far along. My name's Amanda Zimmerman. I have a master's in business administration from Imperial College of London. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt and have been for about 10 years. I spent about 10 years of my career in oil and gas. The last 4 or 5 years, I've really transitioned into other industries such as software, nonprofit. I spent 5 months in the Antarctic with a supply team, so that was not Lean Six Sigma oriented, but definitely learned a lot about the challenges of implementing improvements, especially for our workers that are on the factory floor. They're kind of doing those entry-level activities. So that was an amazing learning experience for me. And like I said, I've been doing Lean Six Sigma for the last 10 years as a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt for about the last 8 years. So everything that I'm sharing with you tonight around how to choose a Lean Six Sigma certification is really with that perspective of someone that's a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Now, I do have quite a bit of content in here tonight, but I am happy to answer any questions as we go along. So if I see that we're getting behind on time, I'll go ahead and let you know, and we'll kind of slow down the questions. Otherwise, we're just going to go through here and y'all just raise your hand and stop me if you have any questions. Now, I will keep an eye on the chat as much as I can to make sure I am keeping up with you guys. Okay, so we are going to start off talking about Lean Six Sigma roles. So we'll cover first some assumptions that I'm making based on you joining us tonight. And then we're going to talk about some Lean Six Sigma roles, belts, what those different things mean. And we're really going to look at that in terms of training, not the roles and responsibilities like you would learn if you were taking a course, right? Then we're going to ask those questions about, well, if you want to be certified, why? What are your motivations? Because that's really going to determine what certification is going to be right for you, whether it's the belt level or whether it's the style or the networking opportunities, right? We need to decide what's going to actually fit for your needs. The next thing that we want to ask is which certification is best? Which is going to be like a quality certification that you can feel really good about on your CV or resume, or if you're going to apply in different industries. We'll have some time at the end for questions, and please don't let me forget the post-webinar survey. I always want to make sure that I'm getting feedback on anything that I'm doing so that I can continue to improve as well, since everything we're doing is about continuous improvement. Let's see here. So the webinar details, to talk a little bit about our outcomes tonight. I want to make sure that by the end of the session, you're able to describe the different roles, the different belts in Lean Six Sigma. I want you to be able to judge the quality of a program and compare the programs for your personal needs. Now, as I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time tonight on the tools, on what is Lean, what is Six Sigma. That's something that you take the course to learn, right? Now, Lean, just to give some background here so that as we move forward, you understand why I use these different terms. Lean and Six Sigma are two separate methodologies. So Lean is all about eliminating waste and enhancing value, simplifying our processes. And Six Sigma is all about making them more consistent. So this is making our processes perfect, hitting that same target every time. So simplification and perfection. Now, what we found is these two tool sets work really well together. So that's why you hear so many organizations calling it Lean Six Sigma or Lean Sigma. Now, both of these are process improvement methodologies. And to really effectively improve our processes, we need this background of change management. So throughout tonight, you'll hear me use the term continuous improvement. And I use that with the understanding that it encompasses these process improvement methodologies and change management, right? So one thing that you might notice if you go to apply for some jobs is that a lot of different companies will talk about process improvement. So rather than saying we want a lean engineer or a Six Sigma certified instructor, they will ask for a process improvement engineer, right? So those are some of the job titles, or the way that they use the job titles is by calling it process improvement instead of Lean Six Sigma. Now, when they say continuous improvement, you can see it also connects to all these different terms. So if we look at the different roles, the different belts that you're going to hear most often, the type of trainings that are out there most frequently, it's going to be one of these 7 roles in our Lean Six Sigma projects. Now, these belts really came out of Six Sigma. So when you look at a certification and it says Six Sigma Green Belt, that might be a different style than a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, because a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt might have more lean tools in it, right? So that's why it's just important to kind of know that difference. So the different roles, we have our sponsor. Our sponsor is going to usually be at that strategic level. The champion is going to be the one who manages the people leading the projects. The master black belt teaches Lean and Six Sigma tools. The black belt leads more complex and challenging projects. The green belt is going to lead most continuous improvement projects in the organization. And the yellow belt is going to support small improvements across the organization. Now, we're going to start off by talking about white belt. And again, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and cover these in terms of taking a training, not roles and responsibilities on a project, which would be part of the training that you take. I'm also going to give this in terms of my experience as a master black belt, which you will find out in Lean Six Sigma, there is not one organization that rules them all to make sure that all white belt certifications are the same. So you do get a wide degree of variation, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, to me, a good white belt program is going to be 1 day. It's going to be 6 to 8 hours. You don't have any prerequisites. And it's a good training for anyone that's going to be a project team member. So anybody that's going to be on a Lean Six Sigma project, it is awesome for them to have white belt training. Some organizations even include this as part of their onboarding. So there's even organizations that everyone is actually trained in white belt. Now, in this course, you are going to get a history of Lean Six Sigma, kind of the basics of Lean Six Sigma concepts, and understand the general project structure that we use in Lean Six Sigma. In our yellow belt course, that's the next step up, that's usually going to be about 2 days long. The prerequisite is usually white belt, and these are people that are going to facilitate maybe small process improvement projects across their organization. Now, the content of yellow belt is going to be DMAIC, so define, measure, analyze, improve, control. That's that structured problem solving tool set that we have from our Six Sigma tools, some basic statistics, and an intro to Six Sigma tools and root cause analysis. So that's what you'll expect people to get if they go to a green or a yellow belt training. Now, for green belt, if you've taken yellow belt, then your session might be a little shorter. Otherwise, you're looking at about 2 weeks to complete a green belt. Now, ideally for a green belt, those 2 weeks are going to be split sessions. So you're going to have 1 week where you do maybe like define, measure, and some of analyze. And then you're going to have several weeks in between so that you can execute a project. So this means before you go to green belt training, you really should already have a project selected that you want to execute using Lean Six Sigma. I recommend people that come to my training have 3 ideas, because not all of them are going to be viable. So if you go to that green belt training at the first week, you're going to go through those project ideas, and we'll talk about some trainings don't require projects, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So prerequisites, it's usually going to be white belt, which is good anyway, because then you can decide whether green belt is really going to be right for you, right? So this is going to be the people that actually facilitate our projects. Now, my expectation is that any green belt, 20% of their job is going to be on continuous improvement, right? So instead of going to this course and never using it, my expectation is that it would change the way that they do their work. Now, I don't say here 20% of facilitating projects, but 20% on continuous improvement. So that means that they're spending about 20% of their week, so a day a week, actually focused on preventing fires instead of just putting out fires. Now, the content here is usually going to be an application of Lean Six Sigma tools. There'll usually be some coursework around the statistical software you use. So that might be Minitab or Jump, depends what organization that you're with. And then how to actually lead one of these DMAIC projects. So we'll go into detail on define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Our black belt is going to be that next level up. That's an additional 2 weeks. You should have completed your green belt and you should have done several Lean Six Sigma projects before you start your black belt course. Now, this to me is someone that's looking to be a full-time Lean Six Sigma professional. But this could also be somebody that had maybe their eyes on leadership or the C-suite, right? And they wanted to have one of these really nice certifications on their CV or resume. So here you're going to learn some more advanced statistical tools. You'll also learn more about design for Six Sigma and design of experiments. Then you have your master black belt. So that's a course that's really focused on people that are actually going to be training and mentoring people in Lean Six Sigma. So you should have actually completed even more projects here, some of those really challenging projects to get up to that level. Now, in this course, you're going to learn more about change management. You're going to learn more about strategic planning, maintaining a healthy project portfolio. So how you get these ideas going and making sure you're setting up your teams for success, and coaching and mentoring. So the master black belt's going to work a lot with that strategic direction of the organization. There's 2 roles I haven't mentioned yet, which is sponsor and champion. So our sponsor has that strategic vision of the organization, where our champions are usually who the process reports to or who the green belt reports to that's executing a project. So I can't tell you an average length on this training because it varies so widely, and it really depends what the organization needs to execute a successful Lean Six Sigma program. So you may have consultants tell you it's half a day. You might have others that do an entire leadership week with these different tools and different pieces of the strategic tool set. Now, generally, any executive course is going to cover basic Lean Six Sigma concepts, so very similar to white belt. They are also going to cover the strategic Lean Six Sigma deployment. So how do we deploy this in our organization successfully? What are some of those pitfalls that we want to avoid? And most importantly, you want to make sure that this executive training covers how to set up your green belt, yellow belt, and black belt for success, right? So how to make sure that you're breaking down barriers for them and providing them the best chance possible to have successful projects. So those are the different types of trainings that you're going to see. So generally, our black belts and our master black belts are going to have more of a connection to this sponsor, whereas our white belt, green belt, and champion, or white, yellow, and green belts are going to have more of a connection to our champions. And our champions will be connecting with our sponsors to make sure that strategic vision gets translated to these different team members. Now, the first question that I wanted to ask all of you was, which Lean Six Sigma certification is right for you? And that's a really hard thing for me to determine because I don't know your individual needs. So I have a little survey here. So those of you that are willing to participate, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in our chat box here. So if you don't mind just taking a moment and filling out this survey, we can get a better idea of why people are here today. And I'll just give you a few moments to go ahead and answer that survey. We can get an idea of some of the reasons people came in. So we did get a question from Samuel. Are Lean Six Sigma certifications beneficial for someone who is wanting to be a lean coach professional at an organization that is just focused on lean? So we are going to talk actually quite a bit more about that as we get to these next sections. I would argue, as you'll see, I've tended to move away from the belt certifications with interest in more specific practical applications. So we'll talk more about that in the coming sections, but that is a really good question that kind of gets at the core of some of the next two pieces. So it looks like we've had 4 responses so far. And it looks like our top ones are to advance our career and improve our processes, right? So that's not too surprising. Add another certification to my resume. So that kind of is in my blood. Me and my dad love getting certifications. So it seems like every time we talk, we each have a new certification to talk about. So I know that drives a lot of people to have kind of this standardized certification. So advance my career. So as many of you may know, Lean Six Sigma certifications are great on CVs and resumes. They definitely speak to your ability to structured problem solve, as well as do root cause analysis and make data-driven decisions. There are studies that show it boosts your income more than a master's would. I don't know, this study hasn't been redone in about 15 years. But about 15 years ago, that is the statistic that was out there. So let's talk about which Lean Six Sigma which Lean Six Sigma certification is going to be right for you. So the questions that I want to ask are, which level of training or certification would you want to achieve? How much can you afford and how much time do you want to spend? What style best fits your motivations? And do you need to grow your network? So those would be the first questions I would want us to ask before going on to talk about the quality of programs. So we have these traditional belts that we just talked about. And then we have all of these alternatives out there that are lean focused or have a cute change to them, like orange belt, right? Or a lean green belt. So that's a green belt that's going to be focused on lean tools, which is kind of strange, right? Because it came from the Six Sigma framework. We have a lot of process improvement focused certifications, various individual lean topics. We have ones that are very specific, like lean healthcare. Now, to me personally, from a Lean Six Sigma or a lean perspective, I see the current belt system kind of as batch processing, right? So it is big and bulky, and it's pushing it through at a very large size, versus taking all of these and making them bite-sized so that you can take them, learn how to apply them, become very good at them before taking on the next level. So I really have some passion about some of the alternative certifications out there, and we'll talk at the end how that actually translates onto some of the job sites, right? What you're starting to see listed on job sites. So the traditional benefit is that most people know what a green belt is. There's a pretty standard set of tools that you're going to get with that. It is going to be more focused on checking something off a list, potentially, than some of the alternatives, which are going to be focused a little bit more probably on practical application. I know at PSU, at Portland State University here, we have a great program around process improvement that isn't necessarily belt focused, but it gives somebody probably more skills to me than they would come out with a green belt. So to me, that's a superior program to some of the green belt programs that I've seen. The next question, I mean, we've got to answer this question, right, is what can you afford? How much do you want to spend? What are the costs of getting a Lean Six Sigma certification? How much time is it going to take you? So I actually did a survey of about 50 Lean Six Sigma organizations last month. Now, this only includes those organizations that had a course length and cost on their website. So I didn't do any further inquiry. So you can imagine some of these, maybe they discount their courses quite frequently. but you can see the wide range here. So you can see that self-directed white belt was free, but you probably only had a half hour. I think that was the program there. So there's everything from free courses that are half hour that will give you a white belt certification to courses that are 8 hours that will give you a white belt certification. Now, obviously, you are going to get a very different level of quality out of those courses. And are you going to be able to practically apply the tools from a half-hour session versus an 8-hour session? Right, so we can look at some of these different numbers here to give you an idea of what the costs are between some self-directed courses and instructor-led courses. So instructor-led is always going to be more expensive. Now, some of these I think have moved to Zoom, so it makes a lot more courses available to you right now, which is pretty exciting. So we can come back to this later on if we have more questions. This question, what best fits your motivations? I think this kind of speaks to what we were talking about in the first question. So we have these two people here. We have this gentleman in the green shirt. He just wants to add another certification to his resume. He wants to switch industries, he wants to make more money, and he's going to pay for it himself. Now, if I think of this gentleman, I might send him in the direction of something that's self-directed, try to find him a program of quality, and we'll talk about what quality is in a few minutes, but I'd send him probably in the self-directed direction because he can do it very quickly. He can get that certification on his resume, and he can move on to whatever the next industry or opportunity is. Now, we'll talk about some ways that we can use this to switch industries or get jobs in just a few minutes. This other person, this lady here, she wants to solve a business problem. She's interested in practical application and project results. She has a lot of questions, and the employer is going to pay. So for her, she needs some one-on-one time. She is probably going to do better in a course that's led by a consultant, where she can actually talk to that person and interact with that person. She'll probably also do better in a course that has a project, that requires a project. So in green belt, black belt, or master black belt, where she actually has to use these tools. So for her, I would recommend a very different learning pathway than somebody that just wants to check off something on their resume. That makes the question, I think, pretty challenging for people online to get this information. Now, the next question I wanted to answer was, do you need to grow your network? So I went to Imperial College London, like I said, a couple years ago for my Master's of Business Administration, and it was a global program, so I got to meet people from all over the world, all different industries. It was a fantastic opportunity, but it made me also really appreciate the power of networks, right? So when you decide to take a course like this, especially one if you decide to take a more expensive version of this course, I would really push you towards a direction of growing your network and also using this to meet new people, to find out maybe more connections in your industry. So if you are interested in that direction, then I might push you more towards a university program. So like I said, Portland State University, I know, has a great program, Villanova. I'm not connected personally with any of these organizations. These are just organizations that I've heard of, that I've sent people to, that people have given me their reviews on as a Master Black Belt. So I've seen some of these university programs work really well. There's also some university programs that are really direct, right? So if you are okay with moving away from that belt system, there are some really cool opportunities out there for you to build your network through this cohort that a university would offer. Now, if you want to work on your own, I'd send you in a self-directed direction where you want to grow your network. If you're trying to get a job, I might say contact the professional organization for your state or your country or your area, and maybe ask them, hey, are there any Lean or Six Sigma programs that you recommend, right? Because they're probably going to send you to someone that could give you connections for the future, for future jobs within that professional organization or that profession. If you're changing industry, same thing, but go to that industry that you want to move into. Healthcare, for example, there are a ton of opportunities out there for healthcare Lean Six Sigma programs, for Six Sigma certifications around healthcare. So if you want to move into that industry, you may want to choose one of those. Now, if you want to practically apply these tools, again, I would push you in the direction of something where you can have one-on-one interaction, a program that would actually ask you to complete a project. So in that vein, we are going to talk about which Lean Six Sigma certification now is best. So some of that quality. I don't necessarily like the way that I phrase this, but we're going to talk about certification types, which is really like those different pathways to certification. We're going to talk about some of those institutions, and then we're going to talk about accreditation and what that means in Lean Six Sigma. So when you look at certifications, anything really over yellow belt or green belt, or anything over green belt, is going to possibly have a project requirement associated with it. Generally, white belt could be training, maybe training an exam, same for yellow belt, but that green belt and above, quite frequently the programs will require you to complete a project. So when you're looking online at the different programs that you could possibly take, you want to see what style they are. Do they do only training, right? Some of them don't have an exam and don't have a project, but will still certify you with only training. Some have training and an exam. Some have an exam only. So when we look back at those prices, some of those are so low potentially because they are only an exam. So you want to make sure that when you sign up, if you need training, that you don't sign up for one that's exam only, right? Or if you don't need training, maybe that's the pathway that you want to go. So some might have an exam and a project requirement. So that's really common for black belt and master black belt. And then training and project could be the certification route. That's quite common for consultants. So a lot of consultancies you see, they might be more in the direction that they will give you a standard 2-week training, but you also have to complete a project as part of your certification. And some are very robust in that they make you have a training, an exam, and a project. So there's different type of institutions, like I mentioned out there. There are employers that will certify you. I had a great question last week from someone who said, I took green belt with my employer. Does it count? Can I use it in other places? And the first question that I'm going to ask is, how long was it? How were you certified, right? Was there an exam? Did you do a project? Now, at the end of the day, to me, as a master black belt, the quality of someone's certification is based on their project results. So tell me about a Lean Six Sigma project that you did and what were the results of that project. And that tells me whether or not you have the knowledge that you need to execute continuous improvement projects. So if you do have an employer program that you're going through, make sure that you get that certification. It may or may not make a difference to your next employer, but we can look at some of those employer requirements on the next few slides. We have that. Consultants. So this is going to be, like I said, there is no standard group for Lean and Six Sigma. Now, there are several nonprofits, there are several organizations that give some direction to the programs, but there is no standardized institution over all of them, which means that every consultant can make up their own program and their own path to certification and their own topics within that, right? So with consultants, you are going to get a wide variety, which is both positive and negative, because on the positive side, you get something that's very specific to you. On the negative side, it's going to be hard to tell people exactly what training you received and make sure that that's consistent with what they're looking for. But if you've executed projects and you can speak to those results, then that becomes less of an issue. The other programs that are out there that are really popular right now are university programs. So these are usually going to be spread over several months, which is really awesome for Lean Six Sigma, because you get the chance to utilize those tools in those small chunks and go and use them hopefully every day at work or at home. So I really do like some of those awesome university programs, and especially the ones that we don't have to necessarily stick to the belts, which, as I said, I think is missing a lot of change management. Whereas a lot of the university programs that don't call them green belt or yellow belt have kind of that whole view of Lean Six Sigma and process improvement incorporated. So it's more of a continuous improvement program. And then finally, we have some of these nonprofits. So there are some .orgs or some other organizations out there, especially when we talk about accreditation, that are actually have some standards that are really great to stand against. To me, the top certification is ASQ. So ASQ to me has the most challenging testing requirements, and if I see someone as ASQ certified, I feel confident that I know what knowledge that they have. Now, whether they can practically apply that knowledge, that has to be seen in the details of their CV or their resume. So accreditation and certification. So when we're talking about certification, we have first party certification. So that's me saying I did something awesome, I'm certified. Second party is me telling someone else, I've trained you and now you're certified, so this is what our consultants are doing. And then there's third party certification. So these are groups like IASSC and Council for Six Sigma that actually offer accreditation to these consultancies or different organizations that say your certification meets our third party standards, right? So if you do go look for some Lean Six Sigma courses, you can take a look and see if they're accredited by IASSC or Council for Six Sigma. That to me hasn't been something that I've gone through someone's CV and looked up the consultancy and then see whether or not they had that. Like I said, if it's ASQ certified, then I have a lot of confidence in that. There's some university programs as well that I can recognize pretty quickly. But let's be honest here. How many people said, we said that 5, so 100% of you, the 5 people that took the survey, all of you said that you want to use it to advance your career, right? So if you have a green belt, that means that you are skilled in root cause analysis. That means that you are skilled in structured problem solving and leading teams through one of the hardest things you can lead them through, which is change, right? Implementing improvements. So green belts certainly you can use on your CV and you can enhance your career and you can spin that in a way that's really, really positive, no matter what workspace that you are in, okay? Doesn't have to be manufacturing. Any workspace, those skills are going to be valid. This is some of the job listings I pulled up from about 2 weeks ago, doing a quick search on Indeed. I really challenge you, if you're looking at a specific industry and you're concerned about which certification program to take, go ahead and go into Indeed or whatever job search is relevant in your area and just look up some of these black belt, Lean, Six Sigma jobs, continuous improvement, process improvement. Those are all good search criterias. Go ahead and look those up and see what the job listings require. So if we look at this example, we have a healthcare organization that just says Six Sigma and or Lean. Now, 10 years ago, I would say people had mostly Six Sigma certifications, but now more and more people are saying Lean certification, which is exciting because there's such a benefit to that. Like I said, a lot of those are going to be more continuous improvement oriented. So you're going to have a much, just a better rounded program for people that isn't so focused maybe on manufacturing or Six Sigma. I'm a believer that Lean needs to be implemented before we take on our advanced Six Sigma tools. So to me, a Lean certification I would be really quite satisfied with. If you're going to an organization that's a manufacturer, that might be in aerospace or quality, that's using ISO and ASQ and ANSI expectations with them around quality, they are probably going to look for a Six Sigma certification. So they are probably going to want something that is like an ASQ certified black belt or an IASSC accredited green belt program, right? those organizations, that's quite common. But let's even look at some of these big organizations like Amazon. Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification or certified Lean Sensei, right? So that's something else you can look up. That's another title, another training that's out there that's an alternative to some of the belt certifications. We also have here a reputable academy, right? So this could be, you know, to me, this is saying doesn't meet those standards that I talked about at the beginning in terms of if you go to a green belt course and it's 2 days, then I'm going to not really see a lot of validity in your certification. If you're going to go to a black belt course where you didn't have any previous Lean Six Sigma experience and then you went to a 2-week black belt course that didn't require a project, that's not something that I'm going to see value in. If you have a ASQ certification on your CV and I can see that you've executed quite a few projects, that I definitely feel confident in. If you have a certification from Acme Consulting and I look at your CV and you've got 15 projects there with really solid results, then I'm probably not going to question your certification. And then this one down here, recognized national organization. So all of these are terms that we could somewhat debate what that actually means. But if you look at this, this is about a dozen different job listings that I've pulled, and only 2 or 3 of them really specify the place that you need to get certified. So reputable academy, national organization, right? So these are pretty vague requests here for what type of certification, which to me says it's best to find the certification that's right for you. I'm super passionate about practical application of these tools. So I would most want to look for a certification that you can actually go home, go back to your work and apply immediately and have somebody give you feedback about. So that's a quick overview of Lean Six Sigma certification, some of the questions and things that you should know before you make this costly decision, right? This can be thousands of dollars that you're going to spend. So now we have an opportunity to go ahead and open it up to any of the people that called in tonight. If any of you have any specific questions about certifications, I'd be happy to handle those.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you're not currently in an organization but are interested in gaining some project experience, what strategies or how, and we talked about this a little bit, but for the sake of everybody, what are some strategies you can use to gain some experience?
Yeah, so that's definitely a challenge for a lot of people that take Lean Six Sigma programs, especially people that enroll in the university ones. A lot of people actually are not employed when they take some of these certification exams. So to actually apply these tools is challenging. So one option is to apply them at home, right? To find projects around the house and apply them at home. And with that, you need to make data-driven decisions and you need to use the communication frameworks. So these would be things like an A3 or a project presentation. So you would still want to put something like that together and the university program may require that. Another option is to talk to friends and family and your network, to talk to that network that hopefully you're building about possibly doing a Lean Six Sigma project for them. So actually kind of consulting pro bono for them, for you to learn the skills, as well as for them to get the benefit of that improvement project. Now, with the pandemic, your opportunity has widened, right? Your network now, distance isn't as much of an issue. So you might be able to lead a project from thousands of miles away. An organization I worked at last year, they were a nonprofit in software, and they did allow a master black belt or someone that was working on their master black belt to execute a project within their organization. So those nonprofits might be a place to start. In Portland, we have a group called Lean Portland that helps to get people that training and experience that they need. Now, I mentioned earlier that I worked in an entry-level position last year, or this year, I guess, in Antarctica. And I did not work in a Lean Six Sigma capacity there. So there was also not a lot of interest in applying the Lean and Six Sigma tool set. However, I still executed, a half a dozen projects because I am who I am and I can't help it. And I did complete an A3, so a one-page document that showed the changes that I had made. So even though my job maybe wasn't very supported and excited about it, it was still something that I was able to use the tools to document those. And if I shared those, if I created that in a way that didn't really share anything about the organization I work for, then that might be a tool that I can use to show others that I have those skills. But definitely, if you can use your network to try to get some of that experience, that's an awesome, awesome chance. And professional organizations in your area. So ASQ has chapters all over the world. Our group, Lean Portland here, is a great resource. So there might be one in your area. Good question. Anyone else? I generally force people to interact a lot in the trainings I do. This is one of the few where I've just pushed kind of a lecture out there. So if there are any questions, I'll give us a few more minutes to answer those. And then I'm just going to send out to you, let me just make a change here to delete that question. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and send out to you the post webinar survey so that I can get some feedback from you guys on how I did tonight, or if there's anything else that you would change about our webinar. And let's see, let me just adjust this video again. So I'm going to send that out to you. So if you get a chance, please go ahead and fill that out. I did record tonight's webinar, so this will be sent out as a link to all of you on Lean Portland's YouTube site. And we will send you out as well, the link to the recording. We'll send you out the link to Lean Portland. So if there's other trainings they're offering that you're interested in, they do have a happy hour every first Tuesday. So that's something that you can join us in as well. And like we said, if you're in the Portland area, we do have some pro bono consulting opportunities. And if you'd like to get a hold of me, my contact information is here. Lean Portland, please check out our Eventbrite. We have some really cool free webinars. Sometimes even I've seen once or twice some belt classes that come up every now and then, maybe some white belts. So it's a good place to just check in with or follow. I think you can follow on Eventbrite to see, to be alerted when they add new courses. Are there any other questions before we go ahead and close tonight? And you can feel free to get a hold of me one-on-one if you would like to ask any additional questions that aren't maybe part of the group. Okay, well, we're ending quite early for me. Oh, any other thoughts on navigating alternative certifications? So the first thing that I would want to know would be the industry. So if there's a specific industry, I would go on to a search, a job search, and I would take a look at what they're requesting. Alternative certifications, it depends what you're using it for. If you're using it for a resume or a CV, I would want a program that probably lasted for more than a week. So something that's more than 40 hours. So extended universities, at many of the colleges and universities around the US especially, have some really great alternative certifications that include structured problem solving, root cause analysis, change management, and other continuous improvement methodologies. But I would really want to see how much time that you actually spent in those courses. I would want to see something that was more than a day, probably at least a week, for me to feel confident for that to be a certification that was on your CV that says that you have Lean or Six Sigma skills that translate. In terms of navigating alternative certifications, The other thing to look for would really be the organization that you're going through. So if you're going through a consultancy, maybe take a look at what others have reviewed on that training so far and what they're using it for, right? So alternative certifications to me means that you care about practically applying the tools. So making sure that those are going to be tools that apply to your work by looking at those different reviews. Now, for me, I always start with any of my organizations that I'm implementing Lean or Six Sigma with. I'm going to start with 5S tools, and then I'm going to move on to Kaizen. Then I'm going to look at that full Lean tool set, then Six Sigma, then design for Six Sigma. So when I come to a new organization, that's the path that I take. So those may be skills that you want to look for at the beginning, might be that ability to execute 5S activities, and then that chance to actually execute Kaizens before looking at that full Lean tool set. So if you're looking at alternative certifications in chunks, you might go that direction. But that search result is going to be an awesome way for you to look at jobs you might be interested in and what they're specifically requesting. So if in your industry, all the people that want Master Black Belts are saying they want a Lean Sensei certification, then that might be the direction that you want to go. And Lean Enterprise Institute is a good place to look at a lot of those possible courses. Not all of them necessarily have certifications, but if you can speak to how you practically applied the tools and speak to your before and after on your CV or resume, that will take you very far. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and end our session today if there's not any additional questions. And I just want to thank everybody for logging in and sharing the evening with us. So we hope to see you next time in our next Lean Portland training. Thank you. Have a lovely evening.